Hi, my name's Ed Merrison from CellarHand, and welcome to my Pitti Party. But it won't be a gloomy affair, I promise. Quite the contrary, because the Pitti in question is this, and it's made by one of the most charismatic, creative and playful wine growers you could possibly hope to meet. The couple behind these wines are Gerhard and Brigitte Pittnauer. Their estate is situated in the village of Gols in the Burgenland region of Austria. Now, before we dive in, I should mention that we recorded an introduction quite recently to Austrian red wines that gave a brief but I hope helpful overview of this area and its three key red grapes, namely Blaufränkisch, Zweigelt and St. Laurent. Now that gives a really good context, I think, to this region and the wines we're looking at. So back to the village of Gols then. It's in Austria's youngest and easternmost state, a region formerly known as German West Hungary. And from that you might ascertain that we're talking about an area culturally removed from the country's west. Gols itself is situated on the eastern side of Lake Neusiedl, or the Neusiedlersee, which is a large, shallow steppe lake, which has a big influence on the climate here. So Gerhard grew up here in the 60s and 70s in a town where everyone had something to do with wine. He, though, was a dreamy, imaginative child. Didn't really see himself going that way, but he did, however, undertake agricultural training with a focus on viticulture at the request of his parents, who ran the family estate. Then in 1984, his father died suddenly, aged just 50 years old. Gerhard was only 18 and he started running the farm with his 20-year-old sister. 4 years later, Gerhard met Brigitte, and then in 1992, when they had their first baby, the couple went their own way, and that's where the real story begins. So they were only small back then, just 3.8 hectares, but their hard work and flair quickly got them noticed, and in 1998 they were admitted to a select band of proudly Burgenlander wine growers called Panobler. The word is a contraction of Pannonia, the area's Roman name, and nobile, noble. So this is one of those groups that works to reclaim the local cultural roots of wine, to dial things back from everything that makes wine international, flattened out and generic, i.e. boring. Instead, they celebrate indigenous varieties and traditional gentle methods that allow the specifics of grape and place to shine through. So the Pittnauers gradually grew the farm, and in 2001 built their new winery. In 2006 they started the conversion to biodynamic cultivation. They were then fermenting with indigenous yeast and adding nothing bar a pinch of protective sulfur to the wines. They're long since certified biodynamic. In 2009 they also kicked out the new oak barriques for good. So as you can probably tell, artifact and meddling have no place here. Though Gerhard isn't dogmatic, he did make his first sulfur-free wine in 2011 and called it Dogma. But that name actually derived from the boldly minimalist movie movement. No, he's a totally free spirit who espouses and encourages a spirit of inquiry and adventure. And yet, while ploughing that furrow of individuality and freedom, they've also garnered recognition for the style and quality of their wines. In 2014, the Pittnauers were named Winemaker of the Year by Falstaff, Austria's most prestigious wine magazine. And then in 2017, they were awarded what's been called the country's wine Oscar, the Trophée Gourmet from à la carte magazine. And I just wanted to quickly read you a quote from à la carte managing editor Christian Grunwald. Gerhard Pittnauer's wines are as unmistakable as he is. Unmistakable characters, memorable and marked with perceptible star appeal. Now I like that, a maker of memorable wines. And not just because of the cool labels, no. For their flair, the Pittnauers' style to me revolves around juicy, silky, fresh red wines, seemingly carefree but with implied rather than insistent detail. Now Gerhard also sent me a message because I wanted to check a couple of facts, and here's a quick snippet from his reply because I think it says something about this guy. For me personally, he writes, the central point in the past is the connection to my wife. Together we not only created a wonderful family but also made our dreams come true, though it wasn't always easy. Now it gets better. He went on, we feel great joy given the uniqueness and liveliness in our wines and overwhelming positive feedback from all over the world. And sometimes we're a little surprised that we can live from work that is so enjoyable. Nice. Now, as well as various renditions of these indigenous black grapes, Blaufränkisch, Zweigelt and St. Laurent, Gerhard and Brigitte produce a couple of wines whose names hint at that playfulness. There's a superb amber white called mash pit. Now, mash is a common term for the mix of grape skins macerating in juice, and it also refers to the skin contact, get it, between people in a rock gig mosh pit back in pre-pandemic days. And there's also Pit Nat, a play on Pet Nat or Pétillant Naturel, the name of their sparkling white and rosé wines made in the méthode ancestrale. That's where you bottle the wine before fermentation is finished, hence the fizz in the bottle. Now both of these wines are made, like the Dogma, with no sulfur additions. But that true no-hands approach applies to the entire output here, and I think that has a lot to do with the way the Pittnauer's wines have resonated so loudly and so directly with such a broad range of people. The wines are approachable, they're honest, they're soulful, and a real pleasure to drink. And as you go up the ladder, there are single vineyard reds and an exceptional blend named simply Panobula. There's plenty of detail woven through, and they make the most of the earth, spice, vivid fruit and acid crunch that Burgenland, portrayed with low yields and minimal intervention, does so well. Which brings me to these two wines, the super accessible starting point with this estate, which both bear Gerhard's nickname, Pitti. First is this rosé. Now apparently Gols was known as Villa Gallus, roughly translated as Roosterville back in Roman times, hence the cockerel on the label. Now this comes under screw cap and is also biodynamic certified. So the juice is from Blaufränkisch grapes pressed as whole bunches in the early morning. The wine's left to mature for 8 months, stainless steel tanks only. So the nose here has notes of dried red flowers, sour cherry, cranberry, nectarine, skin and sweet spices. This is fresh and smooth on the palate with a savoury sheen but intense sweet and sour red berries at its core. It's rich in flavour but with a good bit of red cherry crunch and has a trademark delicacy and flow. And then so on to its red sibling. So this one costs $28, screw cap again, organic certified, and it's a blend of Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch rounded out with a splash of Merlot. The grapes are grown on black soils not far from the winery, and this one spends 12 months in stainless steel. No oak, this is all about fruit. So this particular rendition in 2018 has blue floral notes with blackberry, black cherry, tobacco, aniseed and rosemary. So actually pretty complex. It's medium-bodied in the mouth with sweet blue and blackberry fruit offset with those smoky, earthy notes and spice. It's perhaps not quite got the acid bite I usually enjoy with this wine, but there's a nicely sustained finish nevertheless with those juicy powder-textured tannins. And what I love is these wines are easygoing, and that's no surprise because Gerhard and Brigitte are cool. Now I know what you're thinking, but yes, I actually do know cool when I see it, and they're it. Not standoffish cool, not aloof cool, just committed, into it, confident to be themselves cool. And if you'd like to know more about the wines of Brigitte and Gerhard Pittnauer or any other wines in the CellarHand portfolio, please go to our website, that's www.cellarhand.store, or feel free to send us a direct message at CellarHandWine or to me at Merrison. But in the meantime, please drink responsibly, drink discerningly, and thanks, as always, for watching.